afternoon. My name is Mike Korsick. I'm the Sports Information Director Emeritus at Northern Illinois University. Today we're happy to greet George Bork, one of the greatest names in Husky athletics. George, welcome to the Barcema Alumni Visitors Center.
Thanks, Mike. Happy to be here.
Great. You know, I guess we do a little introduction, and George, you were a two-sport All-America in both football and basketball. You were a two-sport team captain, MVP. When Northern had its centennial, you were a two-sport all-century pick. And to me, one of the most significant things individually was you were the first quarterback to throw for 3,000 yards in a single season when you were a senior. So I guess the obvious question is, how did this all start? How did you get to DeKalb? Growing up in Mount Prospect, you had two older brothers. Were they good athletes? Was your dad a good athlete? Who was an influence on you growing up or when you got to Arlington High School?
Well, my dad definitely was not an athlete. My two brothers played football and track at Arlington High School, and they were quite a bit older than me. My oldest brother was 13 years older, and the middle brother was 10 years older than I was. So there wasn't a real strong interaction, but they always had girlfriends that were always willing to take me to the game. So I got to follow my brothers and get to see them play. And it was, I think, probably getting started, the thing that comes to my mind is just being around kids and playing. It wasn't like the culture now with video games and playing with your iPhone. It was get outside and play football, play basketball, play whatever. And organized sports for me really didn't start until I was in grade school. In 8th grade, I played basketball. I played on a Pop Warner football team and played Little League Baseball. And from then it was on to high school and the normal routine from there.
How many offers did you have coming out of Arlington? Were most of them scholarship offers, were most of them basketball or football? How did that transpire?
I had quite a few offers. Most of them were for basketball, and oddly enough, football ended up being the premier sport for me. And I had my choices down to two, the University of Michigan for basketball and Northern for both football and basketball. But it was kind of a tough process, but those were the two standout teams.
So, in essence, you gave up an opportunity to play in the Big Ten, to play two sports at Northern Illinois.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how it all transpired. I went for my school visits back-to-back weekends. The first weekend I went to Michigan, and they flew me out, and I stayed at a country club, got to play a round of golf, and totally the red carpet treatment. Dave Strack took me into the big house, and we went up to the very top row, and he was giving me the whole spiel about the University of Michigan, and I was duly impressed. It's hard not to be impressed with those facilities. And the next weekend I came to DeKalb and drove out myself. And
no airplane?
No airplane, no. And Jack Phoenix, who was one of the assistant coaches and I guess was in charge of recruiting at that time, gave me a tour around campus in the Jeep, and we got to see the facilities, which included Glidden Field, which was obviously a far cry from the big house. And I was impressed, and I think the thing that really turned it for me is after the tour of the campus, we went over to Fletch's house and had a backyard barbecue. And I don't know if it was the way Fletch was flipping burgers or what, but I just, it hit me. This is where I want to be. And I had some influence earlier from Tigo Larson, who is a great NIU legend in his own right, and was coaching at Arlington, and he was trying to steer me there. And Rich Bader, who I ended up being a teammate with.
Another Mount Prospect boy.
Actually lived 2 doors down from me. He was pushing me to go there. Howie Berg was another one that was pushing me to go there. And I just had such a warm feeling about it. And I think the key was I was able to play both football and basketball. And I got to the point earlier in my high school career, I thought, it was all about basketball. And then football came in the last couple of years. I had pretty good success at football, and I just decided I wanted to play in both, and that wasn't an option at Michigan. So it was, for me, a no-brainer, and obviously a decision that I've never regretted.
Pardon my ignorance, did you run something like the shotgun or the wide open attack at Arlington that you wound up doing here?
Yeah, we did. It was pretty radical at the time. Bus Ormsby was our coach, and he called it the crazy spread. And we would have our two guards would be either side of the center, and I would be back about 6 yards, and everybody else was spread out. So you'd have options you'd have your tackles, your tight ends out there, and your receivers. And at that time, this was totally unheard of. And people were going crazy trying to figure out how to defend it, but you had all sorts of options. You could throw out there. You had an instant screen pass because you had your linemen out there, and it was interesting. A little scary at times because there wasn't a whole lot of protection with just three guys in front of you.
Right. Okay. What about playing two sports? I mean, back then, I think Hugh Rohrschneider played both football and basketball.
Yes, he did. Ken Slimko did.
Yeah, okay. Come December, did you have any legs, after football season, or did you have to take a little break? I mean, you didn't play as many games. I think I looked, and you might have played 21 or 23 games when you played those 2 seasons, your sophomore and junior year in basketball. But it would be a heck of a grind now, don't you think?
Yeah, it would be. It was even somewhat of a grind then, but you're kind of accustomed to it because in high school I was playing 3 sports, so you'd go from football to basketball to baseball, and there was some transition time, but it wasn't as difficult as you thought. And here at Northern, the football season ended right after the Thanksgiving weekend, so you had a little bit of time to make the transition to basketball. And being accustomed to playing 3 sports in high school, it just kind of came natural that obviously I didn't play baseball here, but I did play football and basketball, and then in the spring there was spring football, so it was just the constant rotation of one activity after another.
So in football, since you ran the crazy spread at Arlington, the transition to Northern spread wasn't that radical?
No, it was not that radical for me. It was pretty innovative. I think Fletch was way ahead of his time and very innovative in putting our shotgun together, and same results. Defenses were pulling their hair out trying to figure out how to defend it.
Now, Fletch based the shotgun on the Dutch Meyer spread, who ran that in the late 30s at TCU with Sammy Baugh and Davey O'Brien. I mean, did you ever see, you ever see the book? I mean, there was a book by Dutch Meyer, The Spread Formation. Did you ever see that actual book?
No, I didn't. Probably would have confused me.
Do you know how many plays, do you recall how many plays you had in the playbook? I mean, Fletch had reverses and all these crazy things. And they, like you said, they were very innovative, but unusual in that conservative time.
Yeah, we actually didn't have that many plays. Because we didn't run the ball that much. We had a lot of passing plays and a lot of wrinkles off of various passing plays. And oddly enough, I was able to call all the plays, and that's obviously totally unheard of now. The quarterback is a quarterback. Here we had a short list of plays that we thought would work against whoever we were playing, and there was never running plays in or anything. Was there a time when
you know, there's trash talking in sports. I'm sure there's trash talking in golf. Maybe you can't hear it. But did guys talk trash to you in the 60s? Like, hey, Bork, we're going to get you, or this shotgun won't work, or was there trash talking back then?
There was some. I had an interesting story. My first preseason game in the Canadian Football League with the Montreal Alouettes, some big-time trash talk, and then Angelo Mosca, who played for Notre Dame, came in and popped me in the face the first play, and my nose is bleeding a little bit, and they threw the flag and marched off 15 yards, and this happened actually 3 times in a row. And finally, I got to put an end to this. I'm going to last 1 game in the Canadian Football League. And so I told him, I said, hey, Angelo, just keep hitting me because we can't make 15 yards at a crack with you guys. And after that, he let me alone. But, he was kind of sneering at me, and it was almost like, welcome to the CFL, little boy.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Maybe this is a good time to, you're in an unusual formation, and you had a unique wrist-generated, I guess, throw. Why don't you show people how you held the ball, which is very unusual. You did it with your fingertips.
Yeah, it was, a lot of people said I gripped it down toward the end, and I guess maybe I did. But that was basically the grip that I used on the ball, and it was a lot of wrist action. I wasn't a really hard thrower. I know a lot of our receivers said that the ball was very easy to catch, and that's probably because it came out there soft. And
so your fingers, or your hand, you're not palming it.
Yeah, it's mostly in the fingertips. You can see the palm
right.
there
Okay. Right. So your fingers stronger than normal, or did you work?
No, it was just something that came natural to me. This was just the way I did it. Now that
so when you pumped the ball, I mean, if you were telling Gary Stearns to go deep and you pumped, I mean, the ball wouldn't come squirting out of your hands.
No, it was kind of like that.
That's interesting. Could you palm a basketball?
Harder. On a good day, maybe.
Okay. So now does the same wrist action in your throw, is that the jump shot too?
Well, I think the wrist action definitely played a big factor because I was a wristy thrower with the football, and obviously with the jump shots it was wrist. But there are 2 differences. This is kind of a side motion, whereas this is a forward motion.
Right.
But the wrist action was definitely there.
Now,
in both
did
sports.
someone teach you this, or was this a technique? I mean, now if you're a 10-year-old kid at a summer camp, they're telling you how to throw the ball for the rest of your life. I mean, was there someone who taught you this?
Not really. It's just kind of what felt comfortable.
And no one said at Arlington or Northern, well, hold it this way or do it this way?
No, not really. The only instruction actually that was changing was which way, when you were under center, which wasn't very often, do you hold your hands, right hand up or right hand down? And one theory was right hand up, when you received the ball from the center, you were basically in the throwing position. The other one with the right hand down was when the ball comes up from the center, hits your left hand and puts more pressure on your left hand than your right, and then you have to kind of fumble around, whereas this way it was kind of right in the instant passing position.
Describe the shotgun. You're like maybe 7 yards behind the center. You've got 5 receivers. You're naked. I mean, there's no back blocking for you.
Right.
The tight end, I guess maybe Hugh was kind of the tight end because he was 6'6", but he was out on a pass pattern and caught 70 balls, I think, the 2 years you were upperclassmen. So and you had great protection, your 5 linemen. Was that kind of like the Hank Stram moving pocket, and they protected you, but you were by yourself? So what were the advantage of being in the shotgun, so what you could see the formation and the defense sooner?
Yeah, and the other thing is you were squared up. I found that really helped me a lot because you had a full visual view of the field, Whereas when you're dropping back, you're kind of turned, and it's
Right.
more difficult to see over to your left side. And you mentioned the linemen. They were amazing. They just did an incredible job of protecting me, and I've always said it's really hard to throw when you're lying down, and I didn't lie down very often. They kept me on my feet.
We didn't lead the country in holding penalties, did we?
No.
Now, and then you had the wider splits, right?
Yes.
Because of the spread. So wouldn't it be easier for the defense to penetrate and get to you?
You would think so, but they were just incredible. We had the 50-year reunion last year, and a lot of the linemen were back, and I got inside information that they used to say, okay, let's go the whole game, and never put him on his back once. And they did it more often than not.
Wow. While we're talking about the shotgun, let's talk about, you were very fortunate throughout your career, and of course with Fletch's emphasis on passing, that to have a great cadre of receivers, starting with when you're underclassmen, Al Ack, and you mentioned Rich Bader. We've talked about Hugh Rorschneider and Gary Stearns. Jack Dean was a great all-purpose player. Jack Frost might have been an underclassman in '63, but talk about your receivers, and I guess the thing was maybe somebody was like a safety that you could get it off a quick pass in case, but you also went deep. But kind of describe the mentality on a passing down.
I think we were probably more short pass oriented than long pass, although we did mix it up. They were just, when you talk about that team, it was just an amazing combination of people coming together that had a lot of talent and a lot of desire to win games. And those receivers, if you got the ball near them, they caught it. And the amazing thing is, they were amazing once they caught it, because they could turn like a 10-yard pass into a 40, 50-yard gain. They were great at moving with the ball after they received it.
What would be the longest pass you threw? I mean, you're telling me, and I think you had a 93-yard pass when you were a freshman, and I think you had a couple 70-yard passes to Hugh, but what would be the longest pass you threw?
In the air pass, probably maybe 50, 55.
Okay. Stearns was probably your speed deep receiver?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. From what I've heard about Hugh, and this is a couple of years before I came to school, did you throw him like an alley-oop pass because he was so tall?
He was so tall, and being a basketball player, he was excellent at a reverse pivot. His best move was he'd run down a defensive back, get him to retreat, and then just stop and do a reverse pivot, and now you've got this 6'6" target that you're throwing.
And he would seal them off,
right,
like a rebounder?
Just like a rebounder, right.
Jack Dean, I mean, he was like Mr. All-Purpose. I mean, he did a lot of returns. I mean, he eventually kind of succeeded you as quarterback. He was kind of a halfback, but he was kind of a hybrid, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. He was the bread and butter of our running game. We had a lot of inside traps and reverses that Jack got involved in, and he was an excellent receiver himself.
During the year when different things come up, a lot of coaches, sometimes they'll add things. And again, we've talked privately and in this session about how innovative Fletch was. Would Fletch go, hey, this worked against Central Michigan last year, let's do this, or let's do a reverse off this? Did he add things as you guys were going?
He basically kept things very simple. We weren't revamping things from week to week to have a brand new game plan. We kind of had the attitude that, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
So you executed people to death.
Yeah, we were, I felt, a highly skilled team all the way across the board, and we just pretty much challenged people to stop what we were doing.
I think probably two of the most impressive statistics, and I'm an ex-SID, so statistics are impressive, is It's the Central Michigan game, George, when you completed 43 of 68 passes for 415 yards. And now that's commonplace, but back then, I think in 1963, you guys attempted 409 passes in 9 regular season games. The bowl game didn't count in your statistics, but that's 45 pass attempts a game. Was your arm starting to fall off?
Well, I was young. It didn't bother me too much, but we threw it all over. And at that time the offensive theory was 3 yards in a cloud of dust, run it down people's throats, and Fletch put in a system that worked. And like I said, he was so far ahead of his time. It was just incredible.
Did you know when you were playing that he corresponded with Tom Landry of the Dallas Cowboys about the shotgun?
No, I didn't. It was a good correspondence, though.
Must have been, let's see here. Forgive me. Oh, the drive against Central Michigan, where I think you went like 72 yards, completed 10 of 15 passes in 90 seconds. I mean, maybe some of these were on the sidelines, those guys got out of bounds and the clock stopped. How did you do that? 15 pass attempts in 90 seconds, and maybe you had some timeouts, but that's great clock management.
Yeah, we were fortunate.
Do you remember that drive?
Yes, I do. And it was Central Michigan was the team that beat us during the regular season the year before. So there was pretty much a big rivalry, and we had to go to Central Michigan for the game. And it was tight. The game was very, very close, and we weren't using a no-huddle offense. We were still huddling, and we would audible a little bit, but we were hustling to get all those plays in. We had some pretty good gainers in there, though, but it wasn't like we had 50-yard gain, and then the rest was all little stuff. But we were moving it.
Who would have been some of your favorite athletes when you grew up?
I think my idol was Johnny Unitas.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, he kind of epitomized what I thought a quarterback should be doing.
Great role model, high top shoes.
Yeah.
I can one of the first NFL games I can remember watching was that overtime game.
That was a great one, wasn't it?
That was a great game. That was a great game. So what about basketball?
Oscar Robertson.
You were a little skinnier.
2 good ones, huh?
Those are 2 good ones. George, we were talking about Fletch, and both of us remarked, we're students and we're calling a grown man and a Navy veteran Fletch. I mean, I think when I was the sports editor of the Star in 68, 69, it was Mr. Fletcher or Coach Fletcher, and then it evolved to Fletch. What did you guys call him?
We all called him Fletch.
I mean, from on your recruiting visit, did you call him Fletch?
I don't know that I called him anything on the recruiting visit, but it didn't take long, and he was Fletch.
We were also talking about how innovative he was, and I think Jack Dean told me the story that it might have been at a clinic where he showed a film, and it had like an NIU kickoff return, and there was a reverse on the kickoff team return. And some of the other coaches who were a little more conservative, and again, remember this was in the early 60s, and they go, a reverse on a kickoff, but this stuff worked.
Yes, it did. And I think one of the reasons why it really worked is because it was so new. People hadn't seen it before, and that was just Fletcher's mind. He was able to put stuff together like that, and
the element of surprise.
Exactly.
And would you say that, I think I also remember a story you told me. I think you went to Nebraska, Omaha, and it was pouring rain, and so you went up to him before the game. Coach, are we still gonna? What are we gonna run? And what did he say?
Yeah, I went to him. I said, Fletch, what are we gonna do? It's raining. It's pouring out there. He says, we came here to throw the ball. That's what we're gonna do, and we did.
you heading into your senior year, the year before you were 8-2, and obviously the loss to Central Michigan and then to Adams State in the Mineral Water Bowl. You had 26 returning lettermen. You had all these great skill guys. I think there were 9 NFL free agents from that 63 team that you guys had. Did you guys envision going 10-0, winning your bowl game and being national college division champions, or did you say, well, we're going to be good this year and we'll just take things as we come?
Well, I think you have to take things as they come. You know, you can't look too far ahead from where you are at that particular point. So it was kind of one game at a time, but our goal was definitely to go undefeated. I don't think the national championship really came into focus until very close to the end. Mm-hmm. But we felt like we should have been 10-0 the season before that, and we let 2 games slip away from us, and we were pretty dedicated to make it an undefeated season.
What was it like in DeKalb in the early 60s? You know, you're playing in this Glidden Field, which I think the capacity was listed as 6,000 or 7,000, and yet I've seen attendance figures from your senior year, like 13,000 people and a 7,000. I mean, Fletch said there were people standing on the sidelines. You know, Jim is talking about, you know, coming to the games. I've heard other people who grew up in DeKalb that they hopped over a fence or they slipped under a fence. I mean, Glidden Field was a happening place.
It was so exciting. I can't really put it into words. It was, the atmosphere was like Mardi Gras. It was incredible. The week of tickets were at a premium, obviously, because
Right.
It was all a lot of standing room only, and like you say, people are doing what they can to get it. It was the hottest ticket around. And at the old field house is where they were selling tickets, and boy, as soon as they opened it, it was like a rock concert. People were
there lines?
Oh, tremendous lines all throughout the field house. People waiting to get a ticket to the games, and then the atmosphere at the games. It was just electric. It was, you've got all these people in a small area, and everybody was so excited. The town was just totally involved, and it was really a really neat time.
Now, you guys used to dress at Chick Evans Fieldhouse and then walk. Did you walk down the middle of Lucinda or on the sidewalk?
No, we were on the sidewalks. We were
sidewalk?
good boys.
Okay.
We wouldn't walk down the
Okay,
streets.
all right, okay. But I mean, people, as you walk by Neptune, would the girls go Huskies, or, you know, or?
There was a lot of support along the way, yeah.
So it was kind of like a pregame parade to the
Yeah.
to the thing. You know, we've talked, and I've known you for many years, and you've had a lot of great individual honors and records and numbers. To me, and I mentioned it earlier, the most significant thing, and I think this still stands out all these years later, that the first quarterback to throw for 3,000 yards in a single season. I mean, what does it mean to you now?
Well, I think individual honors are great, but we had an outstanding team, and everybody on that team was a part of it, offense, defense, and it really was a team effort. And Fletch chose to have us throw the ball, and that's what we did. And that I think the 3,000 yards and it was kind of a byproduct of the whole thing.
That's
you know,
fair.
we were very proud of what we did, but it was a team effort.
Okay. Fair answer. As you went along and the wins mounted, and you just addressed it, maybe in the preseason we weren't thinking of a national championship, but as you guys won 7, 8, 9 games, and you're number one in the rankings, and Sports Illustrated is here for a week, and Brent Musburger is doing stories about you in the Chicago's American, and you have other media appearances. Was there pressure? Was there pressure on the team? Was there pressure on you? And how did you deal with it?
Well, I think there was some pressure, but this is where Fletch was really a genius. Fletch kept it low key, but still he was always in control as a coach. And he instilled in us, and this is I think one of the greatest qualities a coach can have, the feeling that you just didn't want to let him down, that no matter what happened, you didn't want to disappoint Fletch. And, what a quality for a coach to have. And we used to, well, here we are, like you say, winning 6, 7, 8 games in a row. And is there pressure? Yeah, there's pressure. But how many coaches would do what Fletch did and have us play touch football every week the day before the game? It wasn't like, oh, we've got to go over this play, we've got to tweak this, we've got to do that. Fletch, go, play, have fun. And that's what we did. And
So this was like on the Friday walkthrough, the afternoon before a Saturday game, or when you went on the road
Exactly.
to Illinois State, instead of running some formal practice, you played touch football.
Exactly.
And so the idea was to relax.
Right, and everybody was involved. It wasn't just the players, managers, and everybody was playing. And, we'd have our own little teams, and we'd play against each other.
Did they run the shotgun?
Well, you had 2-man teams, you had 3-man teams. It was just kind of whatever happened. And, he was an absolute genius. Fletch just got the most out of us.
It's ironic you say that, George, because in talking to a lot of your former teammates, I think Jack Dean told me that, I think Gary Stearns told me that we never wanted to disappoint Fletch.
Yeah.
And he was a father figure. And he was to me, even though I didn't play, I was a media guy, and, that last season they were 2-8 and they were struggling in that transition to the tougher schedule. And I asked him, in a typical Northern Star question, does this team have any pride? And then they beat Bowling Green 7-6 in his last game at Husky Stadium. And he said, Mike, does this answer your question?
Yeah.
And he didn't chew me out. But I miss him. He was a great mentor to all of us young people. You have a great senior year. You were kind of the Gordy Lockbaum of the time, the guy from the Ivy League who was on major college All-America teams because you got votes on the AP and UPI team. You garnered some votes on the Heisman balloting. You played in the North-South Shrine game. You started ahead of Jack Concannon of Boston College. You played in the Southwest Conference Challenge Bowl. And right about this time, you're 10-0 and you win a bowl game. And you're probably thinking, well, I'm going to get drafted. And then there were 2 leagues then, the AFL and NFL were separate. I mean, was it a shock not being drafted?
Yes, it was. I was recruited. A lot of scouts were out watching us play. Talked with a lot of the teams, and actually heard from the Jets the night before the draft, and they said, we're going to take care of you. We're going to draft you high. Don't talk to anybody. And went through the entire draft and wasn't drafted. And it was pretty, to me, self-explanatory why it didn't happen, because I was pretty small, and I think there was a big question mark whether I could take getting hit in the NFL or AFL. And I think that was the main problem. And I was definitely disappointed, but I'd also talked with the Montreal Alouettes through this whole process, and they were kind of in the back of my mind, but I was always thinking, okay, you're going to be drafted, and we'll just go. I really wanted to go to either San Diego or the 49ers. Those were my 2 dream teams, but didn't happen. And then being kind of young and headstrong, I just said, well, okay, because I heard from virtually all the teams after the draft wanted to sign me as a free agent. And I said, well, to myself, if they didn't want to draft me, I understand why, probably because of my size or lack of size. I think I'll just go with Montreal. They wanted me all along, so I'll go sign with them. And that's you never know how it would have worked out as a free agent, and I have no complaints about it. It worked out fine for me.
So you were listed what, 6'1", 178? Is that?
Yeah, that was a stretch.
That was a stretch?
I was more like 6'1", probably about 163 wet.
Well, of course now you'd be working with weights, and you'd be looking like Jordan Lynch probably or something. So, okay, that answered my question about how you got lined up with Montreal. I guess while we're talking about your pro football, how did you wind up with the Chicago Owls in the Continental Football League?
Well, after I was released by the Alouettes, I finished the season out in the Continental League. Montreal had a team in the Continental League, and then I was also teaching school in Montreal when I was playing for the Alouettes. The money wasn't flowing like it's flowing now, and I wanted to get back to this area, kind of get back to the roots, and Chicago had a Continental League team called the Owls, and that was the plug-in point where I came back and played with them until they folded.
I remember the story, I think it was in the Chicago Tribune. Was it the Chicago Tribune magazine, the Sunday magazine, about you playing for the Owls? And of course, it was probably one of your dreams, to play at Soldier Field.
Yeah, that was a thrill.
Even though it was kind of smelly then. I guess let's turn to basketball. You averaged 21 and 23 as a junior and senior respectively, scored 1,114 career points, and you've told me you were a perimeter shooter. How would you like to have played with the three-point basket?
I would have loved it. I'd have been out there helping them paint the line if they had. It was kind of my thinking that if they were going to pull a defense out, I would just go back out a little further till they wouldn't come out anymore. Then that's where you shoot from. And I was fortunate. I was lucky enough to have a pretty good outside shot, but the three-point line, this is dating myself, but the three-point line obviously wasn't in existence.
Right.
So
right.
The three-point line would have, I'd say, probably about probably close to half of my baskets came from the outside.
Wow, so you would have probably been averaging 27 or 28 probably.
It would have been more than what it was.
And Coach Healy gave you free reign?
Pretty much.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Let's go to the College Football Hall of Fame induction. It was a thrill for me to see you be inducted, and Fletch and his wife came up, and we were talking there with Don Coryell, who was the head coach at San Diego State, who we played later in the 60s, and was the head coach of the St. Louis Cardinals, and Jerry Rome from Tulsa was there. I mean, was this like a busman's holiday for you? I mean, all these Jim McMahon was in your class. I mean, I think we were at some function and Dan Devine was there, and I'm looking at him, I'm going, God, I know who that is, but who is that? And every time you turned around, there's literally a Hall of Famer. So talk about the Hall of Fame experience for you and your family.
Oh, it was just an incredible weekend. You almost can't explain it. I was able to share it with a lot of people. Like you say, my family was there, and Fletch was there, and Chris was there. There were some times that, I felt like I really belonged there, and there were some times when I was like, what am I doing here, It was an incredible class. You mentioned Jim McMahon, Bo Jackson was in it, Tom Osborne, you mentioned Don Coryell was there, Randy Gradishar. Mm-hmm. It was just, Willie Gallimore was in that class. It was just a list of who's who's, and they treat you like royalty. Anything you wanted, you had, and like you say, you're rubbing shoulders with all these legends, and it was absolutely incredible. If there's one thing I could change about that weekend, it would be this. There was a golf tournament, and they were playing fivesomes, and mine was kind of preset, and I would have changed and had Merlin, my wife, and my three daughters fill out the group, but that didn't happen. So, speaking of Merlin, we've talked about this several times, and she's mentioned, she said if she had her choice between our wedding weekend and the Hall of Fame weekend, she's going with the Hall of Fame weekend.
Wow, what female would say that?
It was absolutely fantastic. It was like a fantasy world dream.
Do you have your Hall of Fame sport coat?
I still do, and actually I'm slimmer now than I was then, so I don't think it would fit.
Wow, I can't say that, George. Do you have any plans? And I know that you and Merlin, your wife, travel a lot, play a lot of golf, to stop in Atlanta to see the new Hall of Fame?
Yes, we do. We're doing some Avon walks for breast cancer. Merlin had breast cancer 5 years ago, and she's doing fine now. And we were doing a walk in Houston, and then we were going to Washington, D.C., and we planned to make the trip include a stop at the Hall of Fame in Atlanta, but it didn't work timing-wise, but we definitely want to get down there.
Okay. Where did the name, I'll bounce back and forth here a little bit, George, and maybe it's a creation of Ted Emery, who was the SID at the time, the Blitz T. I understand the speed at what you were playing at, but was the spread or the shotgun and the Blitz T, I mean, they're all one and the same, I assume, or is that some PR guy's invention or Fletch's?
We called it the shotgun. And I haven't really studied it a great deal, but I guess there are a lot of similarities between them. But and then the shotgun, actually Fletch was ahead there also, because the shotgun kind of evolved after that, and the speed up offenses and the no huddles. And
wasn't Fletch played for Chick Evans, and Chick was a proponent of passing, but I don't think like Heimer ran the shotgun. I think it was a straight T.
Mm-hmm.
So somewhere between Chick and Fletch, the shotgun developed at Northern.
The thing that was interesting about the shotgun or what we ran, is how teams tried to defend it. And I can't imagine a defensive coordinator trying to sit down and put out schemes, because it was so different at the college level. And the way I saw it, the two ways that they used to attack it or to stop it would be to try to defend the receivers, or try to rush and contain the quarterback. We ran a lot of rollout, and like you said, a rolling pocket. And I used to love it when they tried to defend the receivers, because you'd have all day to throw back there, and they were so talented receivers that they'd get open eventually. And the ones I didn't like is when they try to pinch you in and run the blitz and try to put a lot of pressure, because then you didn't have as much time. You mentioned how do you sort out 5 receivers? Right. My linemen were just absolutely phenomenal, and I had a lot of time to look, And the ones that tried to put the pressure on and try to keep you from rolling out and buying a little extra time where you could kind of scan the field, those were the ones that gave me the most trouble, and I think gave our team the most trouble.
Was there a time that Fletch said, George, you have to get rid of the ball in 15 seconds or 10 seconds? I mean, or what was that, maybe it wasn't that sophisticated?
No, it's funny you should say that. It wasn't with Fletch. It was, if it develops, if it's there, take it. If not, wait, something will open up. And I got to Montreal, and they ran the clock on you. You had to have the ball delivered in 2.5 seconds.
Wow, 10 seconds. Wow.
And I had a lot more time than that at Northern to throw.
George, at this point, I guess I'll tell my 2 Georgia Bork stories. And the first one is when I was in the service. I was in the Army. I'm interviewing for a job with European Stars and Stripes in Darmstadt, West Germany. This is 1971. So, we're, 4,000 miles from DeKalb. And the sports editor and the assistant sports editor are interviewing me, and they say, Well, my obvious question, where'd you go to school? And I said Northern Illinois, and simultaneously they both went, George Bork, and it's just like, wow, this is 8 years after you finished playing college, but they're in Europe, and they knew about you. The other story goes back to when I was at the end of my regular tenure as SID in April of 2006, and Garrett Wolf and I went to the Playboy All-America shoot in Phoenix, and they paid for everything. It was a fun trip. Garrett really enjoyed it, and the guy who helped pick the All-America team was Gil Brandt of the Dallas Cowboys, and Gil Brandt asked me, Mike, how long have you been at Northern Illinois? And I said, I went to school there, and it's 30-some years. And he says, do you remember the quarterback? Oh, God, it was in the 60s, George Bork. And I said, yeah. I said, George is a friend of mine, and we grew up in the same town. And he says, you know what, I remember driving out to campus, and he says, all it was were, there's 2-lane roads and like corn on both sides, 7 feet tall. And has anything changed? And I said, no, the only difference is the road is 4-lane instead of 2-lane. So those are my George Bork stories. I guess, George, this would be a good time to ask the question. And again, a lot of people, and I'm one of those people, the 63 team and some of the things that you guys accomplished were kind of the impetus for the new stadium, the house that Bork built, Division I status in 1969, and of course eventual affiliation with the Mid-American Conference. So here we've gone in this time period from the Mineral Water Bowl to the Orange Bowl. Would you as a player, as someone who coached in high school, an athlete, a pro football player, would you have ever envisioned that rise?
No, it's amazing that you could go from Glidden Field to the Orange Bowl, and the rise that NIU has made has just been incredible. In football, I think Fletch has been very innovative. They've had a lot of great coaches. I think Joe Novak has really put the pedal to the metal with this program, or at least gotten it started, and then it's really been carried on. But the accomplishments that this school has made athletically, and especially in football, are amazing. To think that NIU would be playing in a major bowl, in the Orange Bowl, is it's just a thrill. It just makes you so proud of this place and the people that make it work.
What about the facilities? When I was a freshman, the field house, Chick Evans, it was still a dirt floor, and the basketball floor was portable, and you know that since you played on that floor, and
Right.
There were a lot of dead spots. And the bleachers, I'm thinking, you get a tractor, you could move these bleachers, and you could probably take down the floor, and it would be a perfect place. You couldn't kick in there, but you could probably practice indoors. Did they ever talk about that?
There was talk about it, but it never materialized. It was, you talk about facilities, what they have now, the Chesick Center
Right.
and the Jordan Center, the weight facilities that they have. And
What was your definition of an indoor practice facility in 1963?
our indoor facility was the washroom at the old field house.
You played 4 years in the CFL. You think this is maybe the best place for Jordan Lynch to get his start and get his professional football legs under him?
I think Jordan is a tremendous talent. I think they've had a string of really good quarterbacks here. Chandler is another great one. And Chandler is hooked into the NFL and doing an outstanding job. I was shocked that Jordan, being a high Heisman Trophy finalist and not being drafted, and I think the Canadian League would be a good fit for him. Not only as a running back, which I guess Edmonton is using him as a running back now, but as a quarterback. Running quarterbacks are at a premium in Canada, and I think Jordan is going to make a move in the Canadian Football League, a big move, and there's a lot of that lateral movement from the Canadian football back to the American football. And
Do you think because of the rules differences or the size of the field with the end zones bigger and the field is 120 instead of 100 yards long, does that help Jordan?
I think it does. Jordan is a strong kid, and you'd put him, combining his ability to throw the football and his ability to run the football, that's an ideal mix in Canada, and it's really an ideal mix anywhere. I think he just has to establish himself as a real threat, which he was here at Northern, and hopefully it'll carry over to Edmonton, and who knows from there on.
This is the same thing, and I have to ask you, excuse me, since Husky Stadium has been known as the house that Bork built for 50 years, and this is the 50th anniversary this season of the facility. What do you think of when you hear the house that Bork built?
Thank goodness I didn't build it. It would have fallen down by now. It's a great facility, and I think they're making strides to make it better. And I think the improvements, the indoor facility, the Cheswick Center and the Jordan Center, and now getting the IHSA football playoffs there is certainly going to help in recruiting and just the whole dynamics of the athletic program here at Northern.
Great. We would probably be remiss in not spending this time with you not to mention, you taught and coached at Prospect High School, my alma mater, go Knights, but you won the school's first state championship in boys golf in 1976. And of course you and your wife are big golfers. What did that mean to you to win a state championship?
It was another tremendous thrill for me. It's in golf in Illinois, you're competing with the North Shore schools, the New Triers and the Lake Forests, and it's a little different socioeconomic and setup. But I had a bunch of guys that really didn't look like they would be outstanding golfers, but they were gritty, and they had a lot of talent, and we were fortunate enough to win it. The last day of the tournament, it was switching back and forth between rain and snow, and of course it has to be at least tornado status before they're going to call that off. And we're playing, and actually between nines, one of the parents had dry clothes for them, and everybody changed clothes and went out in the back nine. Now that only probably lasted for one hole, and they were soaked again, but it was a mental boost to them.
Right.
And we were up 5 strokes going into the last day. After 9 holes, it was even, and we ended up winning by 5 strokes. So it was really a thrill to, not only for them and to have a state championship, but also to have the first one at Prospect.
Since you've retired, you and Merlin kind of made a pact that you were going to play a golf match in every state of the union, and you have done that. What are some of the highlights and some of the great courses that you both have played on?
Well, I think in our group of 50 would be the Pacific Dunes in Bandon Dunes, Oregon. It's rated in the top 10 in the world, and oddly enough, not a player that I had on the state championship team, but a player that played at Prospect, was working as a head professional in the Chicago area, and he's working for Kemper Sports, which also manages Bandon Dunes.
Okay.
And he was able to get us on at Pacific Dunes, and it's a terrific course and really a thrill. And we've played we played one in each state and had a logo ball from each state in a rack with the states all engraved in. We put the logo ball in each one, and we played some that were a little less than glamorous, but we got them all in.
That's cool. That's cool. Any other things you guys are planning to do here in your retirement years?
We're spend a lot of time with our grandchildren. Really, Mike, my life has been like a fairy tale. I'm totally blessed. I've got a fantastic wife. She is just amazing. She had a bout with breast cancer, and as I said earlier, she's doing fine now, thank God. And we have 3 daughters that all live very close to us. We have 6 grandchildren, and it's everything in my life has just seemed to have fallen into place. It's including Northern Illinois University. It was it's been a fantastic life. And
So you don't regret giving up that chance to play basketball at Michigan or Northwestern?
not in the least.
Well, that's great. That's great.
I'm a Husky through and through.
That's great. You are. Let's get the picture here. Let's find we have to have a little art. And this is a neat picture. This is from the Regional History Center. Here, this is right after the mineral water bowl triumphed in 1963, and what do we got? You holding the trophy here, and I think you're the outstanding back. And this is Walls, Tom
Yep,
Walls.
Tom Walls.
So he's the most outstanding tackler, and this is Mike Hennigan, who was the outstanding lineman. The guy I'm trying to figure out is the guy with the cigarette here in the back. It kind of looks like, and with sunglasses, kind of looks like, maybe it's Jim McMahon. No, maybe it's Al Davis or something scouting you. But what was that moment like to win that bowl game? And you talked about the revenge for the Adams State loss. But what was that? What did that mean to you guys?
It was a great thrill. We played Adams State the year before, and we were just so excited to be there that we got involved in a rules thing where we played free substitution, and the rules for the game, it wasn't free substitution. It was limited substitution, and you can only bring in 1 player on each play. So I actually ended up playing defense for a couple of plays, and thank goodness they didn't find me back there. I was trying to hide.
Do we have any film of that?
No, I hope not. But that was one of our goals, is to have an undefeated season, and the bowl game would have been part of it.
And would you guys take a train from Chicago to
No,
Excelsior
actually,
Springs?
we did the bus on
You
that
did the
one.
bus thing, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably not like going to the Miami, but it's like then Excelsior Springs was a big deal.
We were excited about it.
That's the only thing that counts. And the other picture, this picture was in your file for many years, and I assume that this was generated by media relations or sports information, maybe Ted Emery. This is a classic shot. Who is this young guy? And I assume by the trees I see here that this is taken at Glidden Field.
It probably was.
Do you have any remembrances of Ted Emery, who was your SID?
Vague memories of him, yes.
Yeah, he's in the Cosida Hall of Fame, and he was still here when I came, and then Mr. Nangle came in 1967. So, all right, George, I think that's a wrap. Thank you once again, and congratulations on a wonderful career and our friendship. And I enjoyed doing this. Thank you.
Thank you.